People talk about red flags in relationships all the time, but what about the red flags that are trying to warn us that we have too much stuff? In today's video, I'm sharing 10 signs that you might own too much stuff, because just like toxic people can be harmful or drag us down, owning too much stuff can also take a toll on us. So as we go through this list, if you recognize or resonate with any of these signs, that might be a big flashing neon signal that it's time for you to change the relationship that you have with the stuff in your home and do a little bit of decluttering. Sign number 1 on this list is that your home makes you feel stressed out, anxious, or overwhelmed instead of being calm, restful, and rejuvenating. And I know that when my house used to be messy and cluttered, it felt like I could never sit down and feel calm and relaxed, and it was like my body was stuck in a state of nonstop fight or flight mode. And if you've ever felt the same, that's because science tells us the more clutter you have, the higher your cortisol levels tend to be. And the thing about cortisol is that it's a stress hormone that's meant to protect the body, kind of like a built-in alarm system. So it's good for things like running away from a bear, for example.
Can I pet that dog?
No.
Can I pet that dog?
No.
Can I pet that dog?
No, he's
Can I
sleeping.
pet that dog?
But when left unchecked for long periods of time, it can lead to all sorts of negative side effects. But the good news is that other studies have found that removing or controlling clutter can reduce cortisol and help us feel happier, less anxious, and more relaxed in our homes. Another sign that you have too much stuff is that you misplace or lose items often. One study found that an average person spends 10 minutes a day looking for lost or misplaced items. Not only does that end up costing people time, but also money, with a shocking $2.7 billion spent each year on replacing things that we've lost, such as keys, TV remotes, wallets, and phones. So if you're constantly searching for stuff because you have no idea where you put it, that's a surefire sign that you have too much and you could benefit from owning less and having a place to put everything. Sign number 3 might surprise you, but if you have too much clutter, you might also struggle with emotional eating or gain weight. So remember when I said before that clutter can increase cortisol levels? Well, over time, those high cortisol levels may drive people to overeat and then lead to excessive weight gain. I read one study from Cornell University where they asked women to wait for someone and put them in either a clean or messy kitchen with bowls of snacks to eat while they waited. And what they found is that the women waiting in the messy kitchen ended up eating twice as many cookies as the women in the clean one. When I first saw this study, I gasped out loud because I grew up in a very chaotic and cluttered home, and I struggled with binge eating for years. And while I don't think that disorganization was the only thing that led me to become an emotional eater, I do think that it was for sure a contributing factor. And I know a lot of people who have said that they noticed after getting rid of their clutter that they were then finding it easier to lose weight and the pounds were just dropping off. So that's just one example of how decluttering can benefit your physical health and wellness. Another sign of too much clutter is that it takes you a long time to clean your house. I remember when I was a kid, I hated Saturdays because Saturdays were the day that we cleaned our entire home. And one of my jobs was to dust all of the flat surfaces as well as the things on them. And I remember that it would take me hours and hours just to dust off the collectibles and figurines on one single bookcase. And I have to giggle when I remember that because now that we have decluttered and simplified our home, it takes us barely any time at all to get the whole house clean and guest ready. So if you feel like you're spending way too much time cleaning and picking things up, that might be a good indicator that it's time to get rid of some stuff. Sign number 5 of too much stuff is that you avoid inviting people over to your home. For a long time, I thought it was just easier not to make friends because then I wouldn't have to invite them over and then have to feel embarrassed or guilty about the state of my home. And it's funny because I have so much compassion when it comes to other people, but I don't have the same level of compassion when it comes to myself. And so if you've ever felt like this, just know that you are not alone. But maybe it's time to ask yourself if the stuff in your home is so out of control that it's turning you into an antisocial hermit. Is is having all of that stuff worth the price that you're paying in your friendships and relationships? Number 6 is that you own stuff that you haven't used in years. It's totally normal and natural for us to have things in our home that we don't use on a daily basis, like my husband's toolbox, for example. Even though we're not in a position where we need to pull out a handsaw or a Phillips head screwdriver every single day, it sure is nice to have that toolkit available when we do need it in an emergency. But when you have too many things collecting dust on your kitchen countertops or stored in boxes in your garage or basement, not only do those things end up taking up valuable space and contributing to a sense of disorganization, but they also add to your mental load and send you silent messages about what you're doing or not doing. A good rule of thumb is that if you haven't used something for the last 6 months to 1 year, you might be able to get rid of that item. The next sign that you have too much stuff is that you have trouble closing your closet, drawers, or cabinets. And this is really common with clothes, where you'll see them spilling out of your closet, or maybe your dresser drawer doesn't shut because it's packed so full. But you might also find this in your bathroom, where maybe all of your hair and makeup supplies don't fit and they're piling up on the countertops or on the floor, or even kitchen junk drawers or cabinets that are so full of utensils and pots and pans and a bazillion pieces of Tupperware with or without lids. And you've got so much stuff that it's spilling out of the spaces that were meant to contain it. And speaking of which, that brings us to sign number 8 on this list, which is that your stuff doesn't fit in your home. And what a lot of people do when they can't fit everything they own inside of their home is they'll start filling up other areas like their garage, a barn, a shed, or even renting additional storage units just to avoid letting go. And this is a lot more common than people realize, because statistics have found that almost 40% of Americans use self-storage to hold the stuff that doesn't fit into their home. And up to 50% of people, or even more in certain areas, have trouble parking their car in the garage because it's filled with so much stuff. No matter how big or small our homes are, the stuff that we own should fit into the life that we have. So if you find your clutter spilling out into other areas, that's a pretty good indicator that it might be time to let go of some things. Number 9 on this list is having trouble saving money, even to the point where it's putting you into debt. Clutter and money problems go together like spaghetti and meatballs, because people who have too much clutter also tend to be disorganized in other areas. One study from 2017 found that people who have cluttered homes were less likely to pay their bills on time, and clutter is also common in the homes of people who have shopping addiction and struggle to control their spending. And this can land you in massive debt if you're not able to get it under control. So if your money habits have gotten to the point where they're causing you to overspend or putting you into debt, that's a good sign that you need to address the inflow of stuff into your home just as much as the outflow. And finally, sign number 10 on this list is that you struggle to make decisions. This is one of my favorite benefits of decluttering, which is that it makes decision making so much easier. I can't tell you how many hours of my life have been wasted standing in front of my wardrobe, feeling like I simultaneously had too many clothes and nothing to wear. And that's because too much clutter can trigger something called decision fatigue in our brains. So when our surroundings are cluttered, our brains have to keep figuring out what to pay attention to and what to ignore. And as we try to make these choices about what to do with all this stuff, on top of all of the other things that we have to make decisions about as we go through our day, it uses up a lot of mental energy and makes it hard for us to make good choices. And from the time that we were born, most of us have been conditioned to think that having more choices is better. But what science has actually found is that having fewer choices actually helps us streamline decision making and leads to more satisfaction. So as we've gone through this list, if you've noticed yourself nodding along with a lot of these signs of too much clutter, and you are ready and determined to declutter your home in 2024, but you're struggling to get started or stay motivated, or even just wishing that you had a place where you could get extra support and encouragement, I wanted to let you know that my awesome decluttering course, Clutter GPS, is now open for enrollment. And when you buy this course, not only do you get over 7.5 hours of step-by-step lessons on how to declutter your home, but you'll also get a bonus mini course on how to get rid of clutter once you're done decluttering it, as well as 50 pages of printables and access to a private Facebook group where you can ask me questions and get support and encouragement from like-minded people who are also on a journey to declutter their home and life. There are still 2 days left for you to save $100 on Clutter GPS, and then after that the price will go up to $297. And if you're interested and you would like to find out more, you can go check out the link that I've added down in the description box and pinned comment below, or you can check out this video that I did last week, which was a Q&A session to answer some of the most common questions about the Clutter GPS course and what's included in it. And if you sign up for the course, I am so excited to help you and see what we can accomplish together in decluttering your home and your life in 2024. Or I'll see you next week. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.